My Reckless Surrender, which is my current book, is actually a book about a dangerous seduction in Regency London. And when I thought of the subject for this book, it's actually about a widow who, if she seduces the Earl of Ashcroft, will get absolutely everything she wants. So she makes a devil's bargain where she, in return for doing the wrong thing, she'll get everything she wants. So it's one of those, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive books. And I had that ringing in my mind the whole time I was writing it. And the funny thing is, I always thought that was a Shakespeare quote, but it's actually Walter Scott. There's all these blogs where I'm saying, oh, Shakespeare said, but sadly Shakespeare didn't say. And it's a very passionate, sexy book because, basically she has to seduce this guy. And they both get more than they bargained for. I mean, he's meant to be this careless, selfish rake who, it isn't going to matter to him who he sleeps with. And of course, he's not. There's a lot more to him than that. And she falls in love with him. And of course, she's deceived him. So the fact that she falls in love with him, there's this enormous risk about it. And all the chickens come home to roost in the second half. So things get very, very hairy emotionally. So there's a lot of high stakes emotion, high stakes situations and things in the book. So. My heroes, I love to write those heroes, and I have no idea where they come from. It's amazing. They're alphas. They're always, even they tend to be knights in shining armour alphas or ultra alphas who then discover they're knights in shining armour. They nearly always have an awful lot of emotional baggage. I tend to find emotional complexity very fascinating. I love to read it. Some of my favourite authors are people like Laura Kinsale, who writes incredibly emotionally complex heroes. It's something that I find really draws me, and I find that when they're tortured, you immediately have the reader on side. I mean, if the reader's going, "Oh no, you poor thing! Oh no, you poor thing!" You've got them. You've got them by the scruff of the neck, and they'll keep reading until that guy gets his happy ending, basically. And the other thing with a tortured hero is when he does get a happy ending, I actually think you get that lovely catharsis. You get that he's been through the fire and he's come out purified gold, and he's got his happy ending at the ending. And I think people find that really satisfying to read. So, and it's something I find very satisfying to write. I give these guys such a hard time. I think probably my worst suffering hero is Gideon from Captive of Sin, which is actually up for one of the. Sorry, I shouldn't have laughed there. It's actually up for the Rom-Con Reader's Crown for Best Long Historical. That guy goes through absolute hell, and then when he gets to the end, I've had so many letters from people saying, "Oh, I was so happy when they got the happy ending," So I think it's a pattern. I think it's a pattern people enjoy reading, and as I say, I enjoy writing. I think it's emotionally satisfying. I think I've got a very lush style. I think it's very lyrical. I tend to use long words, actually, and I never met an adjective I didn't like. So it's descriptive. I think I really try to build up that feeling of being in the Regency and the richness and the elegance of the world, but also the danger. I mean, it was actually quite a dangerous, passionate world, and I actually try and build that up. I think emotionally complex. I really do try and write emotionally complex books. I think the stories tend to be fairly complex, the characters tend to be fairly complex, the issues tend to be fairly high stakes. I'd like people to come out of it and say, I really went through an experience when I read that book. That would be my ideal sort of reaction to it. So they'd come through and say, oh, I really, when you read a good book and you go, oh, I really, felt like I went through a whole world of emotion with that story. So that would be my ideal reaction from a reader.